Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Leeds Edutainment Podcast. We got brought to you by Chubby Chickpea. We got a very special guest today, Massachusetts. I'm going to say alternative hip hop artist Vincent Tesoro. Would I be accurate in saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. I choose the word alternative because that way you can't necessarily stick it in a genre, and it gives me room for creativity to do whatever the hell I want, really.
That's what we all want, right? To do whatever the hell we want
Yeah,
within reason.
yeah.
Uh, you know, Me and you've been working together for a while, and it's good to bring you on here. We just did the show with Mayday. You just dropped a new album, so I thought it was time. You've been really putting in work, and salute to that. This game is work. For all you people that don't think it's work, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And my man right here has been doing a lot of work.
Thank you.
But for people that don't know, I always like to go back. I don't even know where you're from. Where are you from?
I grew up in Braintree,
Ah,
South Shore.
okay. Braintree or Quintree?
Yeah, literally Quincy. I lived in Quincy for a while. I grew up in Braintree. My parents were divorced, so she moved out to Taunton when I was born. So I was mostly living in the South Shore, and I also lived in Taunton for majority of my life as well.
Yeah, I'm officially a South Shore resident now. My wife's from Weymouth, and I live in Hull.
Yeah,
So I am.
exactly.
I've always worked with a ton of artists from Quincy. I actually had had difficulty with a lot of Quincy artists. I never really worked with many artists. We're all cool now with Quincy. I'm very cool with Quincy. My father-in-law is from Quincy. I have no
Fighting.
beef. I got no beef with Quincy.
Yeah,
Braintree, though, is I didn't really work with a lot of rappers from Braintree. Now that I think about it,
I didn't really know any.
yeah. Is there anybody else that you know?
Uh, Not that I know that does shows or records music. I mean, I could certainly be wrong, and I know there definitely are. I do know a couple of acoustic singers, musicians and stuff that were older than me. They did do Battle of the Bands every year at Braintree High, so that was a pretty big thing. As far as rappers and hip hop artists, I don't know any personally.
But you got the mall.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, like I said, my parents were divorced, so I feel that I was raised in Braintree, but I grew up in Taunton, and that's where I really learned more about the world and how it works and how people actually are and stuff like that.
What's the difference between Taunton and Braintree?
It's kind of completely different. Braintree being more suburb, Taunton being a city. So you meet a lot of different characters, I'll say that.
I've said this before. My first club promotions gig in Massachusetts was working at the Matrix in Taunton. Do you remember that place?
No, I was too young for that.
Yeah, really? It was only 2004, 4 or 5. Are you really too young?
Yeah, I was born in '93.
Oh shit! So yeah, you were too young for that.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. But yeah, so where did the music kick in?
um, I used to try my best to work on music. I started playing guitar at a young age, picked up the drums. I was very pick something up, quit. That's just how I was. And so I started writing punk songs. It slowly developed into writing raps. Somebody heard it and said you should start recording. So I started rapping because I could never play an instrument.
Yeah.
About when I
So
was 15.
so you actually were more influenced by punk music first, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I wanted to be in a band and be a singer ever since I was a young kid. I didn't really get into hip hop until I was probably like at the end of middle school, eighth grade or
Right.
something like that. And then I just kind of dropped all the punk music off of my life and just went straight into hip hop.
What punk bands like were you into at that time?
My favorite was Blink 182 and pretty much the side projects that they've done. Green Day, Sum 41, The Used, My Chemical Romance, mostly pop punk and emo bands.
Yeah. I mean, Green Day's from my era too. They There was a one time there was a I don't know, you're probably too young for this. You're definitely too young for this because you've been 2 years old. Green Day when they dropped Dookie,
Dookie.
that album, they did a free show in Boston,
Yeah.
and it was pandemonium. I mean, I didn't go, but I remember all my friends from high school went. They took the train down there. It was riots, everything. And that was like the craziest thing at the time. But that was free. Imagine a free Green Day show in Boston when Dookie dropped.
Yeah.
How crazy that would have been.
They were actually my first show in for American Idiot back in like 2004. That was my first like real show that I went to, and I actually just seen them a couple weeks ago in Boston, or last
Pretty
month.
much, yeah. Pretty much everyone listened to Green Day when I was in high school. Like you didn't matter what, like it transcended any whatever you listened to. That album back then there wasn't as many albums, so like an album like
Yeah.
that was like everyone listened to it. No one didn't listen to that album where I'm from.
And that was the cool thing that I liked about punk music is there wasn't as much competition as there is in hip hop. You know, a lot of these bands would work together, do festivals together, and they would grow with each other. You know,
Yeah.
but you know, hip hop is a little bit more cutthroat. And in this festivals, obviously in hip hop, and people, the support is unbelievable. But as a fan, it was like we all listen to this, and we're not trying to say, "Oh, this band is better versus this." It's like, okay, we'll listen to this, and what else is on? Let's play your favorites.
Right. So who was the MC? And I'm gonna take a guess at this. I'm gonna guess that influenced you to really do hip hop.
Well, what's your guess?
Eminem.
Uh, he was probably the first rapper that I listened to, and then I would say Tech Nine,
Okay. Tech
and
Nine. Yeah.
kind of
All right.
went backwards. And like KRS One
Yeah.
was the one that influenced me, and I did the show through you actually back in 2014 with KRS One.
Really? I totally forgot about that.
I
Did
was
you
with
watch? You know what?
I was with Pathway Movement at the time.
Oh, word. Did you watch the KRS-One Big Daddy Kane battle the other night?
I did. I was tuning in and out, but it's funny because I still got to catch over 2.5 hours of it. That thing went on for a century. It felt like.
Well, yeah, because they had opening acts and stuff like that. So it was, yeah. I mean, it didn't seem too long, the actual battle. I mean, it was fairly long, but it didn't feel as long as an actual show. You know,
Yeah,
but yeah. I mean, I'm a huge KRS. I think he's one of the greatest.
yeah, absolutely.
Easily live. I mean, it was a tough call. I mean, who won that battle? It's all going to be personal preference.
It
I
wasn't
definitely think
announced, right?
what?
There wasn't any announcement of
No,
who.
they don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that Big Daddy Kane's breath control was better. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that that man is 55 years old, has that type of breath control, just speaks to his talent. KRS One is like he gives more, like he puts more energy out there, so
Yeah.
therefore he doesn't have, it doesn't. You only got so much, so
What do
it's
you
like
expect? Yeah.
but KRS One's presence is a more powerful presence, in my opinion, on stage. To this day, I have yet to see, out of all the shows I've done, someone with a bigger presence hip
Yeah,
hop artist with a bigger presence on stage,
yeah,
hands down.
yeah, I agree.
He just embraces all of it, and he's like the stripped down real deal hip hop. I mean, no frills,
Mm,
no fancy clothes, no, it's just, it's just straight hip hop, stripped down what it is to its essence. And Kane's a little more style, puts a little more style on it. But for the all those us more plain dressers,
yeah,
KRS One.
yeah. Well, it was exciting because they're both super lyrical. KRS-One had more energy, but Big Daddy Kane is just real smooth the way he goes about it. And his flow was and his breath control was like pretty immaculate. So the contrast, you're like, oh, I really like how smooth this was, and then you're like, I really like how much energy this had. So that contrast made it really interesting, I felt.
Yeah, I think KRS One also has an advantage because he just put out so many more records. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? He's got such a massive catalog. Yeah,
yeah,
KRS One never really stopped making music.
yeah,
Kane kind of did. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
I agree.
And
Yeah,
so, and my immediate thought was that KRS was going to blow out Kane just on that
mm,
because there was so many more songs. But it wasn't that at all.
yeah,
it was just two master craftsmen, lyricists, just doing what they do, and it was great. It
absolutely.
was amazing.
Yeah,
But anyway, so back to you. So you stop making music, decide you're gonna rap because it's easier with no band, and that's really how hip hop kind of kind
yeah.
of started. Was
Be
like
honest.
these guys are like, we can't afford a band, we can't afford instruments. We're just gonna rap over records and breaks and loops because it's easier,
Yeah.
and that's how the whole culture started. And you're no different.
And it's crazy because fast forwarding to 2021, you have people that are willing to put the time in and are able to master the craft to create instrumental with live instruments and not necessarily make it a beat and make it a song. So when I started working with producers like that, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe I can be a rapper and work on my songwriting and just work on songs with these producers.
Yeah. So you start rapping, and you're pretty open with this, so I'm gonna bring it
Yeah,
up. But
that's
when does the drugs and alcohol really start kicking in?
drugs came in heavy when I was 17. I was a senior in high school. I I say heavy because I was experimenting through high school very slowly. I didn't understand anything about addiction or recovery at that time. All I knew is I was just taking drugs, and that was really it. And I liked the way they made me feel. And once I started like dipping into the hallucinogens and stuff like that, I was 17, a senior in high school. I went to prom on acid. Don't suggest it. Uh, Started doing Molly, cocaine, mostly party drugs. And because of that, even though not too many people in my friend group, other than my immediate friends at the time, were doing it, I still didn't think it was a problem. I just thought, you should have the right to experiment with whatever drugs you want. And
And
until
you're young.
Yeah, and I was young and just people were partying. I wasn't a heavy drinker, although I did drink heavy. And I'd rather use drugs at the time. So until I overdosed in 2013, I did some cocaine. It was cut with fentanyl. And it was crazy because, I was pronounced dead. And I woke up after like 15 minutes in the hospital, and they said it was a miracle. All the nurses and doctors, their jaws dropped simultaneously, and they said, "This is a miracle." And they said, calm down. Your heart's pumping at a traumatic rate. And I got an oxygen tank, and I'm like, it is? I'm like, wait, what happened? And they're like, you overdosed. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, I'm still in a daze, and I say, nah, that can't be possible, you know? And then I'm looking at them, well, I know nobody went to this extent to play a trick on me. I don't remember happening. It very well could be possible. Um,
That's the ultimate denial I've ever heard in my
yeah, you know,
life.
I was like, nah, it happened.
No way, no way.
I was like, I know I
The
didn't do that.
oxygen
Yeah.
mask.
And I said, I know I didn't do that much. And that was the beginning of my recovery. At that time, I still didn't know what recovery was,
Yep.
but that was the start. And I was still playing around with pills, Johnnies, Adderall, and stuff like that until I came to a realization that I'm still using drugs to get by in my everyday life.
I want to ask you about the overdose. When you were pronounced dead, how long were you pronounced dead for?
At least 10 minutes.
Now that's technically, from what I've heard, brain damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you
I
suffer anything from that?
know. That's speculation. That may be paranoia. To be honest, yeah. I mean, I definitely pinpoint certain things, and as far as my memory goes and the way I act sometimes, um, I accredit it to that, but it's all speculation.
Did
I
you have
should
any?
be a
Go ahead.
vegetable.
Yeah. Did you have any visions or anything while you were dead? Did you see anything?
Uh, yeah, but not till later on. It was just utter blackness. It was like being asleep, and then all of a sudden I woke up. And the first thing I heard was I was given a fresh start. And at that moment in the bed, I that's where I declared that I was gonna dedicate my life to serving God and serving others that are struggling with this disease. And that's why I'm here right now as a substance abuse counselor. But about a year and a half later, I was really working on myself and I was building my faith. And it came to a point where I had a realization that maybe I did see something, but maybe I won't realize it until my end, until the very end. And about that time, 2 weeks later, I was speaking to someone about their brother that had some kind of transplant, whether it was a liver or a lung. I'm not exactly sure what kind of transplant they had. And as I think it was a kidney, sorry. And as he was telling the story, he was talking about how his brother went out during that time and died. And as he told it, I had a vision. And it was a vision of heaven. And it was just as it's described. And it sounds super cliche, but it was white smoke. It was just as heaven's described, like you're looking directly into a bright light. And all I could see was a figure. It was like a figure in the middle and two figures on the side, very faintly. And just as it's described in the Bible, realistically, is, you know, there'll be somebody on the throne and there'll be two angels on the side. All I could see was a hand like this through the fog. And I heard the word say, "No, send him back. I have more work to be done." And then I snapped out of it, had a panic attack, and because my body didn't know how to understand just what happened to it. When you're in the presence of God and like physically in heaven, and then you're snapped back into reality, my heart was pumping. I was having a panic attack. I forgot how to breathe because it was like the real deal. I was really there. Um, and I know it sounds hard to believe, and sometimes I hate to even tell the story as significant as it is because how foolish it may seem to others, but this really happened.
I believe it.
As long as
I
you
believe
believe.
it. I have faith. Not everybody believes, but I have faith. And I find the story very, very powerful. You know what I mean? And I'm in recovery too. I'm pretty open with it. You know, I don't talk about my actual program of what it is because it's not supposed to bring that name into publicness.
Mm.
But I talk about recovery and getting sober in general. Um, but I do believe that faith works and faith saves lives. And you became Christian, correct? Like straight up Christian,
Hmm.
right? That it wasn't like it wasn't like a higher power of some kind. You were like, I am a Christian, correct?
Yeah.
And you made your music at that point. You kind of went into like a Christian hip hop faith. I'm sorry, style, genre. Basically, your music
Yeah.
was predominantly about Christianity, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And how
I,
did that go? How did that transition go from
yeah.
someone who's partying, doing coke and like any acid and all this stuff to now, listen, I'm talking about Christ, I'm talking about God. Listen up.
Ah, man. Well, here's the thing. I got saved at 18 years old. So if you go through the track record, I had already given my life up to Christ while I was using drugs. I was bribed to go to a church show. I met this man named Path, who you know, from Pathway
PVTH.
Movement. Yep. And we formed Pathway Movement later on down the road. Um, that was the first time I ever heard Christian hip hop. And that was the first time that I, without a doubt, felt the presence of God. I was standing in that room, the lights went on, and you talk about a chill down your spine. I'm talking about the wind coming into the room. That's how powerful it was. And when he asked me if I was a believer, I said, you know what? For the first time, I'm going to consider myself one today.
So you were high,
Yeah. But
drunk or whatever,
yeah.
in a church saying you were saved.
Yeah.
Did you declare you were saved at that point?
I did. And
Wow.
like I said, still didn't understand addiction. Still didn't understand necessarily why there was a process for me to change, even though it was kind of pulling on my heart slowly but surely. But I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like within 4 months, I became an usher at that church, and I was doing lines before I was going to serve at church.
And what's that feel like, having to be high and struggling with addiction, and then having all this faith given to you and kind of given a solution, but not being able to take it in that limbo between that? Like, how does that feel? That must be very challenging. I mean, that's a tough challenge to deal with.
Yeah, it was absolutely conflicting because here's the thing. I mean, let's be honest. I'm pushing those feelings away as I'm doing the drugs, and then I'm on a manic trip. Um, but once the drugs, I would come off of them. It was terrible. You know, like I was still young. I was still learning. But I was
And this
also,
and this is 18, right? Like you're
yeah,
18 years old.
18
And
years
that's
old.
crazy. I mean, that's very young to be digesting all this stuff.
Yeah, and it came to a point that uh, it came to a point that I had a couple episodes at church, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't really seen too many of those people since, just because of everything that went down. But yeah, I had some episodes due to the drugs, and it's another reason why it helped me to realize that this is not okay. But
Yep.
it was a struggle. And um, once I actually got involved performing at churches and stuff, I was starting my recovery.
Right.
So I didn't start recording music till I was 20, and I didn't really start performing until I was right around the time that after I overdosed. I was about 22.
This is like 2014.
Uh, yeah, yep, 2014, and that's when I stopped using hard drugs, and I was just kind of going back and forth with the Adderall and the Johnnies and stuff like that. Um,
The Larrys, the Johnnies, the Sallys. For
yeah,
those that don't know, these are all nicknames for prescribed medicine that people in recovery abuse.
yeah, exactly.
Johnny, call it Southie Sober, Johnny and Red Bull.
Yeah, so and that's just what it was. But it I will say, the experiences that I've had on stage at Christian events are something I look back and am eternally grateful for, because I did see very powerful interactions, and I did see miracles and have had unbelievable experiences through that, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's better than any high, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So let's talk about Christian hip hop in general because it's something that's kind of really evolved since 2014. It really wasn't a thing for a while.
Exactly.
KRS One has made his spiritual minded
Mhm.
album.
Yeah.
There was a few. I remember as a kid, the Newsboys when they not Newsboys, DC Talk, who was like basically a New Kids on the Block of Christian rap, but they were rapping. And
Yeah.
I think the Newsboys might have been rapping a little bit. They're like straight band now, but I
Yeah,
don't
they're banned.
remember.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they were rappers at first.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. DC Talk was. And we've seen Lecrae, obviously, Andy Mineo.
Hmm.
Um, who else did we have? And NF originally came in as a Christian rapper, but I feel like he's deviated from that a little bit.
I relate a lot to NF because he seems to go back and forth depending on the reactions that he gets. He's good at staying right in the middle, and I
Yeah,
applaud him for that.
yeah, because I feel like it doesn't feel so Christian hip hop with him.
Yeah.
Um, you got the Truth, KB. I'm looking at a few. Show Baraka, Trip Lee,
Bizzle.
Tedeschi, Derek Minor,
Hmm.
uh, Flame, Cannon. These are some of the Christian rappers I'm aware of.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Social Club Misfits. I've actually done a show at Social Club Misfits before. Um, up here, it's not probably as big as NF is big, but
Mm.
up here it's probably not as big as down south. I'm guessing, but it still is a movement. And shout out my boy Church Boy Clothing because he
Yeah, that's what I was
actually,
gonna say.
yeah, shout out to him because he's actually the one that kind of was helping me promote these shows at the Middle East, and he was doing his own thing with these events. He was actually booking them in churches.
Yeah,
So like he was doing these shows in churches, which makes total sense.
yeah,
But he kind of really was the forefront of that up here.
yeah. Caleb McCoy, Samantha
Yep.
White.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of other locals I think he works with. I forget the names. I have a terrible memory, but he worked with a bunch.
Yeah, Mike McPherson.
Mike McPherson, Mike Mack,
Yeah,
Mike Mack. Shout out Mike Mack.
yeah. Every year, he has a huge festival. He brings all the famous Christian hip hop artists in, and does networking groups with them, Q&As, and I met a lot of great people through that experience. Just that one that I went to.
Yeah, he's really the only one I've seen up here doing it. And
Hmm.
I've seen. I'm not saying that there isn't people doing it, but
Right,
that is
on a
now
higher.
the flip side to Christian hip hop is do you feel like it puts you in a box
Yeah.
where if you're not a Christian, you can't listen to this, you're not going to like it. Obviously Islam is very big in the hip hop world as well.
Mhm.
So does it limit you as a rapper?
It limits me. It limits me. The thing is, it's a niche. It's a brand now. So if that's your niche in your brand, you can be very successful doing that. And that's absolutely fine. For me, I've always been stuck in the middle. I'm either like too much street for my church friends or too much church for my street friends. And but my mother always told me stay in the middle. Be well balanced, be well grounded. And yeah, to me, it kind of turned me off, to be honest. Once it became a brand, it was CHH. Because at that time, when I first started, I consider myself and Pathway Movement in the Boston area being one of the influences of that genre in that area. And next thing you know, a few years later, it's global. It has a name. It has a brand, and it just kind of it became something else to me personally. But I wanted to reach the lost. So if I were to just stay in church, then that's only trying to reach people that know God already. And to me, that's not where I want to be. I am also recovering from drug addiction. I also struggle with mental health, and my mother struggles severely with mental health. That's coincidentally led me to some of my drug use. No excuses, but um, I'm here to reach the lost. Those people that feel like they're not loved. Those that feel like they have self-doubt and they're broken and that they're the bottom of the barrel. That's who I want to reach. And I can't do that in church. Only. Only.
Yeah, I totally hear you. And you know, we have to give it away to keep it, correct?
Yeah. Pretty. Yeah.
But at the same time, we can't. I've found I can only speak for myself that we can't force anybody into a certain way of life if they don't want it. But your self example, you know what I mean? It took you a while to come around, and that goes for most of the world.
Absolutely. And that's why as long as I can help someone with their serious issue at their time, whatever works for them, it's not all based around preaching to them anymore or helping them find a deeper relationship with their higher power. It's whatever is going to benefit their life at that time.
Yeah, and I think there is a severe spiritual malady in the United States. I can't speak for other countries, but in the United States, we have gone away from spirituality and
Mm-hmm.
have gone more materialism and more, and you know, and we have kind of have a soul sickness, in my opinion. And a lot of people suffer from, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and you know, some type of spiritual, whatever it may be, you know, it's I can speak for me. It's helped me, and it's helped you, and it's helped for a lot of other people. And you know, faith isn't easy, but it works. You know, and it's a bigger picture than just us, and we're very self. You know what I mean? We become a very self. What can I get? What can I get?
Mm-hmm.
And you see the struggles out there because of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But
Absolutely.
it's not everybody can digest that. That's the problem, and it's something very big to digest. I also want to go back to, you know, saying Christian hip hop because, you know, for years, Islam was pretty much the unofficial religion of hip hop, you
Mm-hmm.
know, being a 5% or Muslim, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No one classified it as Muslim hip hop. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? No one was like, yo, this is Muslim hip hop. But yet, when someone says they're Christian, it's Christian hip hop. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe Christian hip hop branded itself with that instead of just saying, hey, this is just hip hop. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter what I'm rhyming about because that's the truth of it. It doesn't really matter what I'm rhyming about. It's still hip hop. I could
Mm.
rhyme about whatever.
It's true.
I'm still hip hop. I'm still hip hop. You could put a label on me, whatever, but I'm hip hop. Whether I'm rapping about God or the devil.
Yeah.
You know?
Labels always rubbed me the wrong way.
Who does? But who wants to be labeled? Who wants to be put in a box? And I know as an artist, it's even more challenging to be put in a box. No one wants to be put in a box. When you market something, it's easier to put it in a box.
Mm.
You know, this is Christian hip hop. We're going to target people who like are Christians and listen to hip hop. It's easy, you know, than just throwing it out there and seeing what sticks against the wall. You know what I mean? So marketing wise, that's why I've always felt like businesses always did that, and people always try to label it. So if I'm just skimming over it, I understand what it is quickly, and that's what really is the business side of it that I've seen, you know. But as an artist, not necessarily what you want. But what's even funnier is challenging as it is for you to be a Christian rapper, you went and made it even more challenging by releasing this completely not really hip hop, pop punk album, Shooting Stars and Broken Halos. And for the last year, you've been on this whole I'm just doing pop punk.
Mm.
Went back to that. Like if it wasn't even more challenging to market you, let's throw this in there. Now I officially do pop punk. I'm back to that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm just saying. But this is why people like boxes. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because how do you market pop punk to hip hop people? Because it's two different things. You know, I can tell you right now, it's not an easy thing.
Mm.
You know that because we've had these conversations.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I understand that you as an artist, you need in your background. You know, your background. You love this music, and you can do it, and you do it well, man. You know, without a band, you do it well. You sound good. You sound like a real pop punk artist.
Mm.
You know what I
Thank
mean?
you.
Yeah.
And
Let's talk about this transition and making this album.
yeah, I've been beginning to mentor other artists that have been influenced by what I've done. They said, you know, you've taken a change and put your fan base aside and took the risk to do whatever you want. And people have come to me and said, I have a vision that I want to change. Um, it's funny because if I was successful enough to start a wave of doing this in the East Coast, because it is being done a lot in the West Coast. Like I said, I don't like the labels. I'd probably do something different after that, and that's just what kind of person I am. But with the transition, I felt that something was missing for me, that I was beginning to force my message and exhaust my resources. I just felt like it was going over people's heads after our voice is a weapon. And I noticed that there was a trend going on, which was mostly trap music. Um, of course, there was certain hip hop and lyricists going on, which there always is. And I wasn't very surrounded by it at the time. I knew that I was not the greatest MC. I knew that I wasn't the greatest lyricist, but I know I'm a good songwriter. So I came to a point where I asked myself, it's one of two things. Either I quit music or I create something completely separate from anyone I know. And that's what I did. That's how it started.
And you know, we'll also talk about the transition from rap to pop punk. We've seen it with Mod Sun. We've seen it with Machine Gun Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Nothing,
they
no.
are Nothing Nowhere, who is also from Massachusetts, I believe, the Cape Cod. I've done shows with him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing. It's happening.
It's
not
already
just
happened.
you. It's already happening. It's going that way. Um, and you're doing the same thing, but it is a tough transition though,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you're almost starting over in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel like that is what's going on here? or do you just think that your supporters are just cool?
I'm very surprised. I thought this album was going to be a complete flop. I'm not going to lie because of doing that. But everybody has been extremely supportive. I've gained a lot more fans than I did lose fans. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That did happen, and I'm okay with that because I feel like a new artist. So yeah, I am starting over. Just like I did in the beginning, I was given a fresh start. I changed my name. I used to be Vincenzo. I changed,
Vincenzo.
yeah, and I changed my name to Vincent Tesoro during my first album, A Worldly Heaven. And I'm constantly evolving. Um,
I just always stop you, but Vincent Tesoro, you took that name after your late uncle, right? Like you gave yourself that name.
I
You named
did.
yourself after, and what your uncle's name was Vincent Tesoro, is that correct?
It is.
And
Yes.
what happened? He passed away premature, young, or what happened?
He was born with cirrhosis. Born with it.
Born with it.
Born with it. The
Damn.
doctors couldn't figure it out. They've never seen anything like it. They kept giving him a couple years to live. First, it was 7, 10, 13, and he eventually passed away before I was born at 27. So a few years ago when I changed my name, he was always the guardian angel that I never met. I would speak to him, he helped me with my spirituality. And I prayed that I would be able to continue his legacy.
Yeah, it's powerful. For those who don't know, cirrhosis is a very painful death.
Absolutely.
And
Excuse me.
no, not fun. And that's amazing that you took his name. That's great. This album,
Mm.
what was the producer you worked with making all these pop punk songs? It wasn't a band. Let's be clear, it was not a band, but it was a producer that made the freaking thing sound like a damn band. What was his name?
Yeah.
Well, you used a few. You used a few, right?
Yeah, I worked with Phantom.
Yeah.
He did quite a few on that. Don Ziglione.
Yeah.
Who else do I have on there? Polar Beats. Mayday was on one.
Yeah, and there's the one that sticks out because it's an entire pop punk album, but the last song is a hip hop track with Mayday.
Yeah.
Talk about working with Mayday. How did for those that don't know, exclamation point, Mayday, upside down exclamation point, was signed to
Reverse.
Strange. Oh, it's backwards. Okay, was signed to Strange Music. Is basically an alternative hip hop act, but they're not singing pop punk. They're like singing, but mostly rapping. And
Yeah.
you play with a band. Play with a band. Bunch of different instrumentation. We just did the show last week. How did that happen? How did you end up working with Mayday? You've told me the story, but please remind me.
Yeah, I've done up until that point. I've opened up for them twice already. Once at the Middle East, once at Simon's when that was still around in
Yeah,
Providence.
Simon 777 in Rhode Island.
Yeah, six,
Oh
seven.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
6-7. Forgive me.
yeah, and
Was that a
so
keynote? Was that a keynote presents?
yeah, so I was already in the realm of like having communication with them a little bit. I signed up for their email list and for the last tour. I didn't get on the last tour in between 2018 and this or 19 and this most recent one. So during the pandemic, they sent me an email for first dibs if anyone wanted to purchase a collaboration to work with them, and I couldn't find a beat. That's how I met Don Ziglione. It's funny because we
Don
met.
Ziglione and Vincenzo Tesoro.
Yeah,
It's like straight out of The Sopranos.
it's so
Yeah.
funny because I met Phil Morrow on tour with Mayday on the South of Fifth tour at the Middle East. Now, coincidentally, I met Don Ziglione. Don't recall. He doesn't recall either. But I was looking for a producer for the Mayday song, and Phil, who we collaborated with on my last album, contacted Don Ziglione. So I talked to him, and although we didn't find anything for Mayday, we now have a great relationship, a great rapport as friends and in the music business. But I couldn't find anything. So I just told them straight up that I don't have anything right. And they were able to work out the production as well.
And
So
they made the beat. They made the beat, right?
yeah. So I was able to
And you flew down to Miami to work with those guys, correct? Like you did it in the studio with them and everything?
yeah, unfortunately they couldn't make it because
Shocker.
by the time I got there, the world started opening up again. I was in contact with them.
This was during COVID lockdown?
This was May. This was this May.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of when they were, I mean, we could get on the plane and people were starting to move around. I think that people were still wearing masks at that time.
Oh, you got to on a plane.
But that's when they kind of started talking about touring and finishing their album and stuff like that. So I don't fault them for not being able to make it. We were in touch. Miami Beatwave has done some production with them in the past. And I just wanted that Miami vibe. So plus I wanted a vacation. So I
really
took my fiance to a nice hotel. We went to the studio and worked with Brandon from Miami Beatwave, and we had a great time.
Yeah, and you got a great track out of it. It's a banger. It's called Revisit the Soul. It's out now. It's on the album. And it's the only hip-hop track on the album, as like I said. You do rap, actually. Take that back. What is the other song you rap on?
Time Bomb.
Time Bomb, yeah. And that's because we had this conversation where I said, maybe you should balance it a little more so it's not all singing. Maybe you should have some rapping mixed with the pop punk, which I think is your edge. Because you are a good rapper and you can rap. And I always tell people this, that sing. Whether it's Right Hook or Justin Clancy or a few others, don't abandon the rap. Because the fact that you can do both is a great talent. Even though you might like singing, XL the Beast too, even though you like singing and you're really good at it, and sometimes some songs are straight singing, don't throw away your rapping ability, because the fact that you can do both makes you more versatile. Talk about putting yourself in a box, and you'll be able to reach more people that way, and it's more of a novelty, because to just be a singer, you're competing against a lot of just singers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're a singer and a rapper, you have less competition. You know what I mean? There's only that's a novelty. That's not everybody can do that. There's a lot of people that can sing that cannot rap well. When you hear it, you're like, oh, like a lot of that stuff that came out of the early 2000s.
Yeah, true.
Dudes were trying to rap, and it was like, man, it's bad.
Yeah.
They were great singers, but they get on the mic and it was corny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, to me, a rapper that can go, that's trained in lyrics, has good content, songwriting, and can sing, is the ultimate weapon.
I agree. Yeah, and I just had to get some of this stuff under my belt before I could really start to blend them. Like, now that I have an album done, I'm able to do more with both. Now I go into an instrumental. I'm like, okay, where can we tweak this vocally during the songwriting process to give them something extra?
Right. So now, with all this said and done, are you officially married now, or are you still engaged?
I'm engaged next December.
There you go. Cool. Congratulations on that. What now? What's next?
That's a very valuable question, and I don't have an answer. Um,
Well, that's cool because most people be on here and be like, yo, got these big moves coming up. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Blah 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 blah
yeah,
blah. You're
yeah,
like, yeah, I have no idea.
right, right now, yeah, I'm gonna be honest, man. Right now, I'm really focusing on promoting the album, possibly finding a tour. Um, I am taking your advice, so I do
Oh,
have some beats, and I do plan on doing a little side project mixtape on the side. But other than that, I would like
and
to
by the
find.
way, let me stop you real quick. We did do a song together, a rap song together with you, Path, and Ren Thomas. It's gonna be on my compilation, Spiritual Awakening. It's a friggin' banger.
Yeah,
Just saying right now, it's a friggin' banger, and check that out for anybody who wants to hear good rap.
yeah,
But go
that's
ahead. Sorry,
right.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I
No,
didn't want
no,
to
it's
forget.
all right. And that's the thing. Like, if I want to do it, I will. It's not just
Yeah,
like if other people want me to do something. But
yeah. Well, you gave me that song, and you were like, I just want to throw this out on SoundCloud, and you had like a Sublime, major Sublime sample, and I'm like,
yeah,
dude. And I heard you guys verses, and like, bro, we got to redo this, remix this, and do it right.
I know.
Linked up with Archetype. He made that friggin' beat. The shit is like ridiculous. We respit, you guys respit, and yeah, you know,
Yeah, I was glad to be there for that too.
yeah,
Absolutely. And that's just how I was feeling at the time. I'm like, this is just, even though it was like great, I was like, this is just a rap song. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, at that time, like, and I worked through it. I think that experience alone helped me get back into it a little
yeah,
bit. But right now, I'm hopefully focusing on promoting, doing shows again. I have
yep.
a release party coming up in Quincy um, on November 7th, and I think I want to.
Where in Quincy? Where is it?
It's going to be at the Adams Heights Men's Club.
Ah,
Typically members only, but the function hall is separate, and my dad will be working the bar at that night. So
I know. Rest in peace, Maggie's Lounge.
uh, it's gone, man.
Yeah, I drive by it every day.
But I have
You
a.
also, but besides music, you also work in recovery, correct? Don't you work
I
at a
do, yeah.
recovery house?
Yep, I work with Teen Challenge CSS in Brockton.
Yeah. So you deal with a lot of, a lot of. Is it strictly addiction, or is it, dual diagnosis? What is it?
I mean,
It's
it's
everything.
strictly addiction, but I think you know how that goes. That
Oh, I do.
anyone that wants to,
Needs
smoke the
help.
drugs that we're smoking, probably has some issues with mental health.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you're of service there. A lot of people need help out there, and that's good that you're giving back that way. Your experience for anyone out there struggling, your whatever, however crappy your experience is, it can benefit somebody else. And
Absolutely.
you are a living example of that. From everything you've been through, your story is pretty powerful, and you're still doing it. And you're giving back and trying to help best way possible. And I know you're on limited time right now, so you gave us your time today for a break during your break. So, we'll wrap up here. Do you have anything you want to say finally?
I'm Vincent Tesoro. You can find me on all platforms, Vincent_Tesoro. Check out that album. Whether you like hip hop, you like punk, any genre of music, I guarantee it's good music. I think you'll like it. And I am planning to work with more artists in the future. I want to become an executive producer as well. So if you have an issue, not so much an issue, but if you have a vision for your record, come to me and we should work something out because I want to help you with your songwriting.
So the last question, that's great. That's what I do. I'm an executive producer. The last question is for these pop punk songs when you perform them live, are you going to do them in your underwear like Blink 182 with little people and circus animals running around?
I thought about it, a budget, I want
Those are,
to have a midget with a unicycle. I'm not gonna lie.
I believe it's little people is the proper term. I just want to,
Uh,
I'm trying to be PC here.
yeah, you're right with that.
Yeah, those performances always used to throw me off.
Well, it's funny that we mentioned Green Day earlier because the guy came out in like a bunny suit, a giant bunny suit at that, and I think that's what makes things fun.
So we're
Absolutely.
gonna see Vincent Tesoro either in his underwear or a bunny suit sometime soon and show you. Maybe we'll see it at the release party.
Yeah, or maybe I just might do my own thing and it might be unexpected.
That's true. True.
Because now
If
you
it,
got looking for it, so now I got to throw you off.
Vincenzo, thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate your time. It's been great working with you. Great to know you, and your story's great. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Leeds Edutainment Podcast with Vincent Tesoro, brought to you by Chubby Chickpea. Thank you, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, Leeds. Thank you.
Take care,
Blessed to
buddy.
be here. Have a good day.
You too.